Greater Poland Uprising of 1806 was a military insurrection by Poles in Wielkopolska against the occupying Prussian forces after the partitions of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. The uprising was organized by General Jan Henryk Dubrovsky to help advancing French forces under Napoleon I in liberating Poland from Prussian occupation. The Wielkopolska uprising was a decisive factor that allowed the formation of the Duchy of Warsaw and the inclusion of Wielkopolska in the Duchy of Warsaw. It was one of the three most successful uprisings in the history of Poland. In addition to the Greater Poland Uprising of 1918-1919 and Szczecin Uprising in 1919. Historical background. While Kingdom of Prussia already possessed large Polish population in Upper Silesia, it gained additional Polish citizens during the partitions of Poland. From the beginnings of Prussian rule, Poles were subject to a series of measures aimed against them and their culture. Polish language was abolished as official language and German introduced. Prussian ruler Frederick the Great, who hated and despised Poles, hoped to replace them with Germans. Prussian officials who spread German language and culture often despised Poles, who were portrayed as backward Slavs. Lands of Polish nobility were confiscated and given to German nobles. German colonists were settled. The War of the Fourth Coalition between Napoleonic France and Kingdom of Prussia gave hope to the Polish inhabitants of Greater Poland of recovering their independence and ending oppressive Prussian rule. Napoleon, counting on the benefits of gaining control over land on the other side of Prussia, sent a group of emissaries to South Prussia to collect information about the situation in the province and the sympathies of the Polish citizens. On 20 September 1806, the Emperor issued orders to form a new division from Polish deserters from the Prussian army. There were so many that 2 days later, Napoleon decided to form a second division. The open conflict between France and Prussia ensured that Prussia could only maintain a small number of troops in Greater Poland. Moreover, a large portion of those soldiers were Polish nationals. This caused a great deal of trouble for Prussian commanders. For instance, between the 1st of November and the 20th of December, 3,000 Polish troops deserted from the Torun Corps. The low morale of Germans contributed to the French victory at the Battle of Jena Auerstedt. Mission of General Dubrovsky. In order to organize a diversion on the back of Prussians, Napoleon chose General Jan Henryk Dubrovsky, who was staying in Italy. Dubrovsky was chosen for this mission because he had a great respect in Greater Poland from his military leadership during the uprising of 1794. Napoleon sent a message to Dubrovsky on 5 October 1806, and on the 22nd of October the general met with the Emperor at Dessau. During this audience, Napoleon ordered Dubrovsky to go to Poznan and organize regular Polish troops. After 4 days of preparation, Dubrovsky proposed to the French Emperor his plan of forming a Polish army of 40,000 soldiers. To realize this plan, Dubrovsky asked to have Polish officers from other Napoleonic units sent to him, and on his special request, Józef Wybicki was designated to become the future head of the civilian authorities. This group heard from Napoleon, who was already in Berlin, that Poles have to deserve independence, and, when asked whether he would create a Polish state, Napoleon answered, "I will see whether the Poles are worthy of being a nation." Uprising. Dubrovsky sent emissaries before him to Poznan, to evaluate the situation. After they returned to the general with the news that the whole region is full of patriotic spirit and joy about the success of the French army, Dubrovsky and Wybicki entered the city on 3 November 1806, leading the first units of the French army. Their arrival became a large Polish patriotic demonstration. On this same day, Dubrovsky called Poles to stand with arms on Napoleon's side and fight against Prussian occupation. Dubrovsky and Wybicki created voivodeship commissions whose tasks were to take administrative control and keep the area quiet, preventing fights about social and economical issues. Dubrovsky's and Wybicki's proclamation was enthusiastically adopted by the bourgeoisie but with reserve by the Szlachta. Therefore, in the newly created Poznan department, Polish units were formed mostly in large urban areas like Poznan, and in the countryside. Mobilization was very slow. In the Kalisz department, a special proclamation for this area was announced on the 9th of November. Large centers of uprising fighters formed in Kalisz and Konin. On the 10th of November, Polish fighters engaged in battles against Prussian troops near Ostrożezo and Kępno. Then, on the 13th of November, the uprising spread to the area around Sieradz. Poles had the most difficult fighting in the Bydgoszcz department. As commander of the newly created Polish units in this region, General Amilcar Koszynski had to fight against the largest Prussian troops in Greater Poland on one side and with an uncooperative French intendant on the other one, using troops with very little training or experience. Meanwhile, Dubrovsky was already creating a regular army, mobilizing one man from each 10 cottages, and on the 3rd of December appointed the possible Light Rusyni as auxiliaries to the regular troops. These regular army units, alongside some irregular uprising troops, cleaned Greater Poland of some pockets of remaining Prussian units. An uprising spread in other regions, and in November, fighters took control over the Jasnogora fortress, mainly due to the action of Wybicki at the beginning of January 1807. The regular Polish army, organized like other Napoleon's armies, had 23,000 soldiers. The French emperor stayed in Poznan between the 27th of November and the 12th of December 1806. Pomeranian Campaign. On the 1st of January 1807, Dubrovsky was near Lovich, where he received from the hands of Wincenty Krasinski a bulawar of Hetman Stefan Czarnyski. The great merits of Dubrovsky and his popularity among soldiers weren't given much consideration. In the appointment of the chief of the War Office in the ruling commission, Joseph Poniatowski, who was unfavorable to Dubrovsky, was appointed instead. Napoleon chose him because he wanted to guarantee the cooperation of the Polish aristocracy. A large difference between Dubrovsky and Poniatowski was exemplified during the writing of the Polish Army Code. Poniatowski wanted to keep corporal punishment, but Dubrovsky loudly opposed against it. To avoid this conflict, Napoleon decided that Polish army would adopt the French Code. On the 3rd of January, French Marshal Louis-Alexandre Berthier gave the order to existing units of planned divisions of Poznan and Kalisz departments to form one brigade from each department. The commander of the Poznan brigade was General Wincenty Aksamitowski, and the Kalisz brigade was commanded by General Stanislaw Fischer. Both brigades of infantry formed a division commanded by General Dubrovsky. Brigades were strengthened by 300 Polish cavalry units, in addition to the unit from the Warsaw department, that were both transformed in a unique regiment of cavalry commanded by the son of Jan Henryk Dubrovsky, Lt. Col. Jan Mitchell Dubrovsky. All the units of the new division, that started their march on the 7th of January, had to meet in Bydgoszcz. Meanwhile, the units commanded by Amilcar Koszynski, which had been fighting against regular Prussian troops since December, won the Battle of Koronowo and marched to Łysy, forcing the enemy to leave the town and securing this place of concentration for the newly created division. Before the beginning of the new campaign, the main Polish troops were strengthened and reorganized into 3 divisions. Poznan Division commanded by J. H. Dubrovsky, Kalisz Division commanded by Joseph Zajaczyk, and Warsaw Division commanded by Joseph Poniatowski. Kalisz Division was sent to the siege of Grudziądz, and the Warsaw Division moved northwards with the whole French army in the direction of Danzig. At this time, 6,000 soldiers of the Poznan Division stayed near Bydgoszcz and later advanced on Yezna and Dierzów. Both towns were captured, but the Poles were forced to retreat by Prussian troops. Later on, Poniatowski ordered a part of the Pospolite Rusyni that weakened the Poznan division to disband, which were returned as reinforcements in February 1807. After that, only the troops of Gen. Kozinski were fighting in this area. After a reorganization, Poznan division was composed of 6 battalions of infantry, 3 squadrons of cavalry and 2,000 Pospolite Rusyni commanded by Gen. Michał Sokolnicki. On the 15th of February, cavalry again captured Dierzów, but was once again forced to retreat. 8 days later, on the 23rd of February, the whole division attacked the town, which was defended by a strong Prussian garrison. After 7 hours of battle, Poles captured Dierzów, but Gen. Dubrovsky was wounded, forcing him to leave his division for a while, and his son was badly injured as well. Therefore, Dubrovsky was promoted to the rank of brigade general and moved to the Invalida Corps. After the battle, Gen. Kozinski became the new division commander. Earlier, in January 1807, Dubrovsky had formed from the Poznan troops a division group commanded by Kol Garczynski. This unit captured Schneidermühl, Deutschkrone and Wielen. February 1807, Garczynski's group was subordinated to Gen. Kozinski and later, with some troops of Pospolite Rusyni, was sent to fight near New Stettin. At this time, the troops of Sokolnicki captured Stolp in Pommern and, later on, took part in the siege of Danzig, which surrendered in May. Also in May, Poznan Division, renamed as 3rd Polish Division, returned under the command of Gen. J.H. Dubrovsky. After the capture of Danzig, Polish troops fought also in Mashuria, including the Battle of Friedland. Aftermath. The Pomeranian Campaign was ended by the capitulation of Königsberg on 15 June 1807. The later treaties of Tilsit and the recognition of the Duchy of Warsaw by the Kingdom of Prussia. However, there was a more immediate effect. By the time of the uprising, the Prussian army, previously thought invincible, had been fought to almost the point of total liquidation. Napoleon had destroyed the majority of the Prussian army only months after the declaration of war, and the only significant force loyal to the Prussian regime left was garrisoning Prussian Poland. These troops were expected to reinforce the Russians and continue fighting the French. With this Polish uprising supported by French military operations, this was no longer possible for the simple reason that outside a handful of Prussian units who managed to escape and join the Russians, the Prussian army had been completely and systematically wiped out. Russia would face France alone.